So the number of Palestinians killed while seeking food in Gaza is now more than 600 in just 5 weeks. They're dying at US and Israeli-backed distribution points run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. The UN calls them death traps. Moath al-Kahlout reports from Gaza City on the Palestinians dodging Israeli bullets in the hope of getting even a scrap of food.
In Gaza, death can be found in every direction. Women living in the north of the Strip do not have the luxury of staying behind and must race men to try and secure food. Wafa Ubaid cares for a family of 5, her children and elderly parents. She sorts through what she managed to pick up off the ground at a Gaza Humanitarian Foundation distribution site. And tomorrow, she will have to do it all again.
I'm divorced and I'm taking care of 5 people. I have no food, I have no water, and no one takes care of me. I'm obligated to go and get humanitarian aid. But I failed every time because of the attacks on those waiting to get food. I do my best to at least get what's left of people's food to make something for my children. Before I used to go and beg some families to help me, but they couldn't offer me anything, and I'm obligated to face death every day for my children.
There seems to be no end to people's desperation here, and trying to get food can come with a high price. Families fleeing danger lead a dangerous existence at the whims of Israeli soldiers, often forced to make impossible choices to survive: death by bullets or death by hunger. Scenes like these have become a regular occurrence. The Israeli military routinely opens fire on people waiting for food at GHF distribution sites. Many Palestinians have been gunned down in recent weeks. Khalil says he was crawling on his stomach to avoid the bullets, but the intensity of the fire was too great, the cover too little. He was shot in the leg.
I have 2 young daughters who are always hungry. I must bring them some food to eat and some water to drink. I didn't have money to buy food and diapers, so I was forced to face death to get some humanitarian aid. Nothing is easy in our life in Gaza. Our food is mixed with our blood. I got almost nothing except 1 diaper and I was injured. I will welcome death if I can get some food for my family.
People here say Israeli forces use aid points as a deception to trap and kill Palestinians. Khalil says people are risking and losing their lives for as little as a kilo of food. With nothing to feed his children, he prepares to go again, saying goodbye to his daughter, knowing it could be the last time he sees her. Moath al-Kahlout, Al Jazeera, Gaza City, Palestine.
All right, let's explore this further with Antony Loewenstein, who's the author of the Palestine Laboratory, which is a book on Israel's arms and surveillance industry. He joins us now from Sydney. So, Antony, great to have you with us. I'm just curious about the formation of this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the GHF. Given the chaos and killings that we've just been talking about, what was the calculation from the United States and the Israelis of bringing in their own outfit when there was already this well-established, experienced system of aid provision, which was ready and waiting in Gaza already?
It really comes down to the fact that the Trump administration in Israel has hated the UN for years. This isn't hardly a secret. They've reviled the UN. They don't like the UN's presence, frankly, anywhere, but particularly in Palestine. So when Trump came back into office, there was a decision, I guess, by Trump administration officials in Israel, and Israel had been pushing something like this long before Trump came back into power, to establish this, frankly, scam where there are big money players involved. The Israeli government has invested huge amounts of money, though they don't really honestly admit that. The US government just announced the last weeks they're investing tens of millions of dollars. And if one reads the Israeli press, you find that a number of Israeli food companies are doing very well out of this. They're making money from sending food to this sham organisation. And the idea that you have, as you said, over 600 people being killed, that is the point. The point is not to provide aid in a humanitarian way. It's to say to Palestinians, we will kill you if you take food from us. And that might sound incredibly cold, but one only has to read testimony from Palestinians who have been saying since the beginning this is happening, or even in the Israeli newspaper Haaretz in the last week or so, where Israeli soldiers were speaking to the journalists there and admitted that, yes, we are killing people. Yes, our commanders are telling us to do so. And this really just finally goes to the bigger picture of how so many Israelis, including in the IDF, view Palestinians. They do not view them as equal citizens, and they are frankly seeing them as deserving of death.
Right.
This is the calculus that's going on in Israel at the moment.
Okay, so it is then, is it, a definitive plan to militarize aid, to use it as a kind of means of sowing chaos and to intentionally murder civilians?
Absolutely. I think there's literally no question about that. And what concerns me deeply is someone who's done a lot of work on Israel and Palestine being a model that is then exported elsewhere. That's obviously what the Palestine Laboratory is all about, around weapons and surveillance. What I fear is this example of the militarization of aid. Any NGO, human rights organization you speak to in any conflict in the world will always say that if you militarize aid, you are by definition endangering the people who are trying to get the aid, because there is no clear line between a soldier carrying a gun and an individual handing out aid. It endangers everybody, including the NGO giving out the aid. And what I fear is what we're seeing in Gaza is a model that you may well see in other places around the world, in other conflict zones. The countries see what Israel and the US are doing and get ideas. And because there's been no accountability, there's not one Israeli soldier who has murdered a Palestinian civilian in Gaza has been put on trial in Israel. Not one. Not one. And I think that goes to the heart of why to rely on the Israeli so-called justice system is a joke. This can only happen with international bodies if they ever get off their behind and do anything about this.
Right. So how can you rely on the Israeli justice system when it is an operation which is a front for Israeli state objectives? So with taking all of this into account, it is a war crime with US backing, isn't it?
It's a war crime day in, day out. And when you have Israeli soldiers themselves saying, yes, they're anonymous in these Haaretz reports, but they are openly saying, yes, we're killing people. It's a killing field. I mean, this is their words, not mine. It's not the voice of a journalist saying this. This is their own words saying it's a killing field. And the point is terror. The point is to cause Palestinians, I mean, frankly, the bigger picture here, which is still the stated objective of the Israeli government and the US administration under Trump, is to make life so intolerable for Palestinians in Gaza, which it obviously has been for 21 plus months, that they will potentially go somewhere else, that they will accept a one-way plane ticket to God knows where, some location that Israel has bribed, a country they've bribed or given weapons to. Now, at the moment, we don't know where those countries are. Israel has been speaking for a number of months to places like South Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Libya, countries that are ill-equipped to deal with their own population, let alone deal with Palestinians from Gaza. But that remains, as Netanyahu said again this week, the stated position to remove as many Palestinians as possible from Gaza, and ideally, from the Israeli perspective, and many people within Israel agree with this, not all, of course, is to bring back Israeli settlements, which were evacuated in 2005.
Right. Just from the GHF point of view, their defences, they say they have delivered more than 52 million meals in 5 weeks, and that other organisations, they say, quote, stand by helplessly as their aid is looted. How, Antony, does that defence stack up?
Well, it doesn't, because pretty much since the beginning, and this was really being said on October the 8th, 2023, and it's been a mantra that Israel's repeated for the entire period since, Hamas steals the aid. This is the allegation. Hamas steals the aid and sells it at massively inflated prices in markets in Gaza. It is conceivable, I've spoken to various sources, that sometimes does happen. I'm not denying it doesn't happen at all. But any human rights organisation working in Gaza, I've spoken to many of them, friends of mine who worked in Gaza as doctors, as NGO providers, as humanitarian workers, are saying there is no evidence for this being done on a mass scale. It just doesn't exist, that Hamas is stealing all the aid, and therefore Israel and the US has to establish a separate so-called independent body. It's just complete nonsense. And unfortunately, too many in the Western press, New York Times, Guardian, Washington Post, routinely still to this day are repeating that tired line, which is Hamas steals the aid, which attempts to give legitimacy to what Israel is doing. The idea of giving aid, I'm sure they have given many boxes of aid to people. I'm not denying that that's true, but the system has killed over 600 people. Like, how is that in any justifiable way a successful mission? It's a complete failure.
All right.
And I would not at all be surprised if this comes to an end relatively quickly.
Antony, we'll leave it there. This story of people being forced to risk their lives simply to eat. Antony Loewenstein, thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.